I want to talk about something real quick that a little short conversation I had with a lady. So I live in a part of California, and I told her I've been here like a little less than a year. She said, oh, okay, well, welcome and stuff, because I used to live in LA. LA is expensive. I'm not paying for nothing. Unless I'm specifically doing something in LA that I can't really do anywhere else, I'm just not going to live in Los Angeles. The traffic is ridiculous, and it's expensive, and you're paying for something that ain't worth it. It's like, it's not even what it used to be, because after COVID, I mean, who cares about celebrities? You know what I mean? So it's not even what it used to be. You don't have any reason to be expensive like that unless they just turn the place into something completely different, you know. But anyway, uh, I want to talk about how she said over here, she said it's where I am. She said it's getting better. She said it's getting better. I'm like, what do you mean? I thought she meant like the stores and the, building stuff and stuff like that. And she was talking about the racism. It was real bad, but it's getting better. I said, you know what? Racism is old. And it's an illusion anyway. Race is an illusion. But racism is outdated. It's outdated. It's old, and I'm really tired of those narratives. I'm tired of people calling themselves want to be racist, especially when they don't have nothing. People are racist that don't have nothing. Now, let me tell you something. Everybody ain't racist. Too. I want to say this. Some people have a right to judge what they see now. Like some people are judging what they see. Okay, and if they're going by what they see, if a person acts in a particular way and they see a particular habits and patterns, that's not necessarily racism. They're going by what they see, the patterns that they continually see over and over and over and over again. So I wouldn't call that necessarily racism, that they think they're superior because they see a particular behavior. That happens a lot. But now when somebody is just racist towards you for no reasons, like they feel like you shouldn't be able to perform well. I mean, I've gone through that, but I don't like to use this term racism, though. I don't like that. I'm really sick of racism. I'm sick of that consciousness, too. I'm really tired of that consciousness. It needs to go. And, people don't understand the power that they have. If they don't want racism to be around, it don't have to be around. That people don't understand the power that's in them, that they really feel like that kind of mess needs to be around them. Okay? But I mean, I've experienced that, where you have, people of other ethnicities. And in California, it's not even about a white person either. I mean, you have different ethnicities, lots of different ethnicities. Filipino, a lot of Asians here, a lot of Indians, Asians, then you have the Indians, but that's still Asia. But, then you have other, Hispanic and other groups of people here. That they might have a problem that they feel like you performing well. They feel like you shouldn't be smart, right? But why would they feel like you shouldn't be smart? Because they feel like they see brown people acting a certain way. But here's the thing: regardless of whatever they seen, if they see you performing whatever you're supposed to do, they see that you're smarter. You're not no average person, and they get mad at that. Or like, say for the women, they feel like you're not supposed to be desired by certain groups of men, right? But, so just stuff like that. And it's like nobody has time for that. See, that type of stuff, nobody has time for that. Just because, or if they see that you drive a certain car and make a certain amount of money, they have this idea of you shouldn't have it because of what you look like. Stuff like that. There's just no more tolerance for stuff like that. There's no more tolerance for stuff like that. And I just want to say this. Brown people losing jobs, and that's unfortunate that people get treated poorly. I just want to say there's a problem with humanity, but it's just segregation. That's just how it is. The segregation just never ended. That's just what it is. Okay, and honestly, I listen to where a lot of brown people are just being put on the back burner. Nobody cares. They get fired left and right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about trying to And why? Because these other communities, they have their own communities. They create their own jobs. A lot of Filipino run a lot of rehab facilities and some nursing homes and boarding cares. And, I see them. I see them a lot. A lot of Asians, really. Honestly, a lot of Asians. They kind of dominate in the healthcare a little bit. And Indians are too. I'm seeing them do that. And then, you have Hispanics that dominate certain areas, okay? A lot of these mechanic shops that I see, especially around LA and Southern California, because I haven't really been around Northern California, but I see that really these tire shops and all that stuff, they dominated by a lot of Hispanic, okay? But then they have other stuff too going on. So it's like, okay, but, these other groups of people, they create their own communities and then they hire each other. They hire each other. I've been in places where I've been the only brown person and everybody else is being Hispanic. They create these jobs, these opportunities, and they hire their own. And so I just have to say, although it shouldn't be no division like that, but the bottom line is that all these people, I see a lot of Indians I see around here creating their own businesses and stuff. And they have their own communities. Okay, and there's just an issue with brown people. I think, like I said before, people treat brown people how brown people treat each other. I think that's just it. When it comes to Filipinos, they don't have to worry about no white man or the white man firing them. They don't have to worry about that. Why? Because they create their own. Just me being in LA and around Southern California, it looks to me like they're starting to dominate the healthcare industry. They're like dominating the healthcare. Not Filipino, but just Asians, period. Asians, period. They look like they're dominating the healthcare industry. And you see like the Koreans, they dominating the hair industry and the nails. So it's like, okay, the people, they not worrying about somebody else firing them like the white man because they creating their own. Everybody else is creating their own. The Hispanic ain't even worried about. A lot of times the jobs they have, they working with somebody in their own communities or their own cultures have created these jobs. Okay, so if they do get fired, it's for some other reasons, but it's certainly not because of their doggone culture. It's maybe for other reasons. But brown people, for the most part, kind of, there are brown people that work for themselves, but they can't afford to like hire other brown people because they have to just like work for themselves. That's it. Like they have 1099s, but they can't really be hiring a bunch of other people like that, like these other groups of people can. So there's really no jobs like that that brown people have created for other brown people to go work at. That's why I don't like it when brown people like to get online and say, well, you should have your own business. See, that's the thing, because every Asian don't have their own business. Every Hispanic don't have their own business. You have these communities. They create communities where they create jobs for their cultures. But every single Hispanic that you see don't have their own business. Every single person is just not going to have their own business. Every single person in the world is not going to have their own business. Every single Indian I see don't have their own business. They have communities where they create their own jobs, and then you have other Indians that work at those jobs. But every single person is not going to have their own business. Who's going to be the employee? Every single person have their own business. Who's going to help? Everybody can't be a CEO. And I hear this a lot with brown people, where you need to have your own business. So every single brown person in the United States of America need to have their own business. And that probably is because brown people are not like other communities where you create jobs for other people. But every brown person in the United States is not going to have the wherewithal to create their own business. That's why these other cultures got enough sense to know that let's create this, so other people from our communities can come in and get help. They already know everybody's not going to be able to just do stuff, So anyway, yeah. So I just want to say, I was just saying that a lot of people that treat brown people the way brown people treat themselves. They treat brown people the way brown people see themselves. Okay? Because if brown people actually had more pride about themselves, I'm just not sure how successful racism would be, this idea of racism, if brown people actually had more pride about their own communities and taking care of their own communities and their own children. I'm not sure how far racism would go with that. I mean, how far would police brutality go? Brown people are notorious for allowing other people to infiltrate their spaces. Listen, like what is literally run by a brown person? Okay, you got the NAACP created by Jews. You got Black Lives Matter, created by a Jew. I don't care if they said it came from 3 brown ladies. George Soros funded it, okay? So I say he probably created it, okay? Who else? What else was I going to say? That series of Roots with Alex Haley, was that really written by a Jew? Was he like a CIA agent? I don't know about that one. I'm just wondering. And what else? It's other ones too. Oh, BET. Who is that run by now? Because it used to be owned by a black man, but it's owned by somebody else now. What about these magazines called Jet, Ebony, and what else? I don't know if they're black owned or brown. I don't know, but some of those magazines are not. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. You're not going to have too many Hispanics or Asians that's going to let Jews take over like that. This Jews take over everything they do. They're not going to let that happen. You had that Me Too movement that was started by a brown lady. And it started off, I don't know, I think it was the streets of Philadelphia. I think she's from Philadelphia. I just know that she's from the city. Not Chicago, but I think it's Philadelphia. And it started off as the inner city girls who kept getting raped and they didn't have a voice. Nobody listened to them. The Me Too movement started for girls and young women and probably boys too, but mostly girls and young women who didn't have a voice, and they would be attacked and raped in those areas and they did not have a voice. Nobody listened to them. They didn't matter. It was supposed to be started for them. Why did this brown lady allow Hollywood to take it and mess it up like that? Why did this brown lady that started this Me Too movement originally for inner city girls that did not have a voice? Why would you take that from these girls that didn't have a voice? Why would you let them take something like that, to take the one thing that they had? You created the one thing they can have to speak their truth, to be safe. And you let Hollywood, these privileged actresses that knew they got on the doggone, what you call it, the couch, the casting couch, that they knew what they were getting into. They absolutely knew what they were getting into. Why would you let these privileged actresses ruin something like that was meant for these girls that did not have a voice? This is what I'm talking about. If it's racism towards brown people, oh well, I mean, I see it too. I don't really let that get to me. I don't like this racism stuff. I don't like that term. Because the truth of the matter is, brown people hate each other more than other people hate brown people. Okay? Brown people hate each other more. However, so-called white or other groups of people might hate brown people hate each other more. Okay, so I don't really care about no other group of people and how they act. Okay? Even though separation isn't good, but at the same time, you have a group of people that don't have pride in themselves. They don't want to do anything for themselves. I mean, you have individuals that do things for themselves, but as an individual, you can only help yourself. You can't help the whole community, because we've seen what happens when you try to help the community. It turns into trash. It turns into shit. We've seen what happens when you try to help this brown community. It turns into absolute shit. There's too many people in the brown community, women and men, that's willing to sell out their community, that you cannot create anything. The only thing you can do, if you do have your own, you can only have it for yourself and maybe help 1 or 2 other people. But you cannot create a community with jobs in a successful community like Asians and Hispanic, because they have pride in themselves. Brown people do not have it. They literally constantly, every single chance they get, they sell each other out. I don't care if it's in the movies, with taking roles that make people that's stereotypical. Wherever it is, brown and men alike, brown women and brown men alike, they constantly, consistently sell out the community. Period. Okay? So, anyway, no. Yeah. And so that's all, that's all I got to say is that, brown people just need to take a good look at themselves, worrying about somebody else. And I'm not talking about that lady that said that, but I'm talking about worrying about somebody else being racist. Okay, worry about what some other man got to say about him. Some other non-black man say that he'll never date a black woman or a brown woman, and a black woman like, ugh, why you get offended? Who cares? He's not even black. Who cares? Well, why don't you get offended when men who look like you, men you gave birth to, disrespect you like that? Why don't you get equally offended? You get offended when a white man say it. You get offended when a Hispanic man say it. But when the very men that you give birth to, when they go online and disrespect you, you have nothing to say. See, something is wrong with that. It's almost like, you know what it is? It's because there is zero accountability. See, what it is, brown people just have zero accountability for themselves. Zero accountability. Okay, so I can care less about who else is racist out there. Because the bottom line, like I said, and I'll be finished, brown people hate each other more than anybody else can hate them, and that's just it. Okay? I don't care if they mental MK Ultra, I don't care why, it's just what it is. That's it. And so with that being said, that's it, and I'll talk later.